that I send and deliver messages from a space of love and peace. My husband won't have to worry about the dismantled little girl who comes up, and because she's in a space where she hasn't processed her pain, she is going to subconsciously, without awareness, implement that type of toxicity in our household. He has a wife that has done the work. So for my being this field 17 years, I've heard more women say, I wish I would have waited. I'm not saying they wish they would have waited to be 40 or 50, but I wish I would have waited so that I can have more to offer myself and in turn my family. Because I wouldn't have shrunk. I would have been a different mother. And this is going to be a hard one because so many women say this. I wouldn't have chose my same husband. A lot of women say that. I say you would have not? I would have not chosen. I would have not chosen had I reached more of my potential. Because a lot of times...
Okay, let's talk about this. I literally just had this conversation with a friend. Like, she says so many poignant things here, and a lot of people like to try to minimize what Dr. Cheyenne Bryant says because she allows herself to be seen as a person and a therapist at the same time. If you pay attention to her and how she speaks, if she's asked a personal question, she will show up as herself. Most therapists that come onto any type of platform will only speak as a therapist their entire time. And even when they're asked personal questions, will always have a wall of etiquette. The reason why Cheyenne gets dragged sometimes is because she allows herself to speak freely about what she is and who she is, but then can flip to the therapist side. But that's neither here nor there. This, when she's talking about women saying they would choose a different person, the amount of times I've heard women say this to me is mind-blowing. And I recently had this conversation with a friend because we were talking about, me being 42 and dating. And I was talking about how the types of men that I am drawn to have changed drastically. Because of how I know myself, right? So, like, of course, I'm going to attract a bunch of, types of men because most of this stuff is through apps, right? And they see me and everybody always has the misconceptions about me. But through me weeding out, like, the dudes I'm actually going to see if we can move forward with. I was telling my friend the other day that the last two men that I talked to that really, like, piqued my interest felt like home to me. And not like one felt more homey than the other, and the communication had a breakdown and we stopped speaking. But if I'm talking simply about who he was as a person and the things about him that attracted me to him was simply based off the fact that I now know myself more, right? Like, I now know who I am and I stand 10 toes down in who I am. So I know the type of person that's going to compliment me. And yes, I had to go through a lot of heartbreak therapy and all the shit, recovering from a narcissist relationship and avoiding 2 others after that. But I can gratefully say that when I see a complimentary man, I can recognize it. And that's beautiful. I can be like, oh, no. I don't like, and this is what drives me fucking nuts about women and this rhetoric that's out now. Like, oh, he got to make 6 figures. He got to be 6'2". He got to da-da-da-da-da. All the shit that most of these women are not or don't have. Because none of this rhetoric that women are speaking about, which has been influenced by rap culture, which has been influenced by strippers who are basically female pimps, because most of these rappers out used to be strippers. So that's their mentality and that's what they're talking about. That's what's permeating our culture, especially Black culture. What they are selling to women is not anything that's going to serve them long term. It's not anything that's going to serve their spirit, their energy, their soul. And this is why I often say, like, okay, well, do you want to be a wife or do you want to be a prostitute? And either way, live. But don't sit here and tell me you're a wife, but you operate with prostitute mentality. I think it's a thing. Not saying that men should not provide. Not saying that men should not, adore you and cherish you and treat you well. But there's a different mindset of where it comes from. All this to say, watching this interview with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and yes, we're the same age, so I think this is why it's like, we are on the same page, honey. After I told my friend, like, the last 2 men I talked to, like, I could see a life with them. And it's showing me, and both kind of different, you know what I'm saying? Like, both different, but it was like showing me that I've done the work on myself to be drawn to those types of men. Like, the men who can accept me for who I am, who actually have their own strengths that actually compliment me without asking me to be less than or less of a woman. They didn't need me to change to make themselves feel good about themselves. They were equally as talented in different things. And they enjoyed sharing with me. Like, there's so many little things that I was like, wow, like, okay, I'm getting there. Like, maybe hopefully the next one will be the guy, But not only that, to go into further what Cheyenne talks about in this interview with Women of Impact is, she says that women will settle down with people based on the season they're in, and men settle down based on the future. And I actually really agree with that. Because in the moment, as a woman, you think that this thing feels so good right now without considering, because we fall in love with our ears, women do. And I think now that most women are like actually working on themselves and doing therapy, we're actually following more actions in our eyes nowadays. And that's where the disconnect is between us as men and women. But we fall in love with our ears, so these things sound so great to us now, that maybe unhealed person that we are now, maybe that still broken little girl that we are living in now, right? A lot of women don't consider who I'm going to be in 5 to 10 years. And the amount of women I know that have given up their whole identity as a woman to be a mom and a wife, who, like, I can ask them what it is that they want or like, and they don't even know what they want or like. They don't know what to do with themselves if they had a free day, because they've fully lost the identity of themselves. Is crazy to me, and it's sad. And I told my friend, I said, I can honestly say that I know I'm built to be as one person. I know I'm a wife. And I thought at 35, I thought at 20, I thought at 28, 30, 32, 35, all these ages, I thought that I was ready to be a wife. I thought that I knew who I was. The woman that I am now is so different. Like, it's insane when you allow yourself to wait for what is for you and to be patient and to grow and to love yourself and to learn to occupy your space with loving yourself and having a relationship with God and finding your purpose as opposed to filling it with men. The person you become, because that person is that person that is going to be right to be a wife. Like, and I mean a long-term wife. Like, I literally was like, fuck who I was at 35. I'm not that person. Like, my personality is the same. I'm probably a little bit bolder in my personality, but like, I'm not the same person. I really do know who I am. I've really understood my triggers and what makes me tick. And I am still working on communicating things properly, but I do know that's necessary. And if something triggers me, or if even when I have to operate in my new self versus my old self, I can recognize that old self and be like, I don't want to keep doing that. So I'm gonna do this. All of those things, all that awareness, all that knowledge of self is so important. And that makes me feel like, okay, I am ready. I am so ready. And when I look at these men that I talk to, to see like if I can move into a relationship, I look for that in them too. Like, how much do you know yourself? Do you know yourself? And you can tell. You can always tell by someone who thinks they know versus someone who really knows. And this conversation, I really do want to have, I would love for women to watch this Women of Impact conversation with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, because it really is, I love that she's just very transparent with her own needs and wants, with her own faults. And when people see clips of people, you're taking things out of context. And I'm not just speaking for her. There's so many times that we see a clip of something or someone and we take what we see and run with it. And that's why I always will watch the full interview. Before I get online and start talking shit or write some crazy comment, I will always take the time and be like, let me actually watch this before I have an opinion. Because you can't garner an opinion based off of a clip. You really can't. It could be a clip that's like very decisive, or you're hearing someone say something like, for example, all the racist stuff that happens. If I hear someone calling somebody an N-word on the clip, I'm gonna be like, oh, you're a racist. But when we're talking about the nuance of like self-development, self-growth, relationships, opinions, especially a therapist who's operating in 2 seats at the same time on a platform, you need to listen to the whole thing, and you need to listen to understand, not to judge. And I just identify so much with her because literally that's me. Like, half the shit she's saying, I'm like, yeah, like I'm healed, but nobody's ever perfect. Nobody's ever healed. But am I self-aware enough to be like, oh, you're triggered right now? You're triggered right now, and my issue right now, I think that I'm still working on, which, I knew what's going to happen, is communicating those triggers. But I will say, and it's not really an issue because I just communicated my triggers to the last dude, and apparently that was too much for him. So he left, and I was like, fine, that's fine. I require time in person. And if you can't give me that, that's fine. I'll move on. Somebody else will. Somebody will give it to me. Somebody will be happy to meet me out and see me in real life. So not a problem. But like, what she's saying is so true. Like, as a woman, you have to know yourself. You have to allow yourself space to bloom and grow before you let somebody clip your wings and put you on a shelf, because you will never know who you're supposed to be. You'll never know what you're supposed to do. And it breaks my heart when I see women who never got that opportunity. I had to choose. I've always wanted a family. I wanted a career. And I remember asking myself one day, what would make me sadder? Never ever pursuing my career and using the voice that God gave me and shining my light the way he told me to, seeing the world, or being a wife and a mom. And they were very close, neck and neck, right? But I knew I needed to grow. I knew I needed to live and experience life, and I needed to fully know who I am. And I can say, like, right now, like, I know I've always had the heart of a wife, but I feel like I have the skills now, the emotional capacity, the emotional intelligence to really be that. You know what I'm saying? And instead of me putting time into all these dudes that don't have the same skills or emotional intelligence or patience to do that, I'm like, all right, next. Like, no, I'm good. Like, let me just move on, because I'll find somebody who matches me. I'll find somebody who complements my crazy quirks and who allows me to be myself and who can embrace that and be happy to be with me. Somebody who wants to fight for me, fight with me against life. And someone who's great at communicating, because I've worked really fucking hard to be a better communicator, and I know that now. Whereas before, I would just go for whatever felt good in the moment, whoever made me feel something. And now, honestly, looking back, just feeling things doesn't mean safety, doesn't mean longevity, doesn't mean love. Anybody can make you feel good in a moment. But I'm trying to grow old with someone. I'm trying to still twerk, peep pop on a handstand at the old folks' home on my husband. Like, and the only way that's going to happen is if I really invest in myself long term, know myself for long term, and then only pick people who compliment me long term. So yeah, if you haven't seen this talk, y'all need to watch it. I appreciate Dr. Cheyenne Bryant and her directness and her truth and her ability to step out of her therapy hat and be a woman and say, no, I used to do that too. Like, or I need this because of da-da-da. Because a lot of times we will see therapists, and there's a lot of therapists that I adore. Like, I love Dr. Romani. Like, but I don't know Dr. Romani as a person. Like, her face online is a therapist, and that's fine. Everybody deserves to give what they want and have a private life, but I only know Dr. Romani that way. Or like a Mel Robbins, I only know her as well, she's actually showing more. I will give her that. When she brought her daughter out, she started to talk about their personal issues as a mother and a daughter, and she's been way more transparent. So I'm starting to see her differently as well. So yeah, I just appreciate Dr. Cheyenne Bryant being able to be a woman and a therapist and answer questions appropriately. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of people aren't picking up on, especially with the Cam Newton interview. Like, she called herself out too, and she called out Cam. So yeah, all that to say, y'all need to watch this Woman of Impact discussion and really think about why are you choosing? You know, yeah, people are going to be drawn to you. You're going to attract a bunch of different types of people, especially if you're an empath. But who are you choosing? Who are you entertaining? Why are you entertaining these people? Are they really giving you something that you could see being something that will bear the best fruit in the long run? Is this truly complimentary, or is this total cognitive dissonance and you're just trying to paint this beautiful picture about it because this guy is so hot or he's this status or whatever? Like, why are you choosing what you're choosing? And is that really what you want? And if you want short term, that's great. Make a choice, live your life. But what I find is that a lot of women don't want short term. A lot of women want long term, but they make short term decisions. Think about it.